I'm curious, what is the one use case with AI? Just riding the AI wave nowadays. We have some updates in the release as well, so maybe I should start with that. What is the one use case of AI that, I don't know, you got to use in the last couple of days or weeks and you found interesting? Oh yeah, I know what you mean, Zach. I know what you mean. Feel free to drop a comment in the chat if you have an interesting use case for the AI. In the meantime, I'll share mine. I have to be honest, I was never a fan of Excel sort of like formulas, and I always used to do a lot of Stack Overflow around them, and I just found myself, yeah, using the integrated AI bit in there, and wow, they're super powerful. Saves a lot of time within the context of cells, so really, really powerful. Saves a lot of time. It's quite an interesting use case.
One thing that I thought was neat was actually back from Backstage Con North America in 2023. When I met with one of the presenters was from Avalia Systems, and he had shared during his talk that he actually had dynamic content based upon what role you were, right? Whether or not you were like in leadership or developer. And when I sat down and talked with him about it, he said one of the cool things they were doing was for the leadership view, they would have visuals like graphs, but then they were taking the graphs and actually throwing them out to ChatGPT and say, describe this graph. And they were using that output as the content that they would place along the graph dynamically to explain what a leader would be seeing when they saw that. I thought that was actually a really great use of AI.
Yeah, and I presume also a lot of other applications. I'm thinking like accessibility and other things, like it could play such a, yeah, fundamental role and whatnot. Also, Heike, I love yours. We actually discussed about a bunch of that stuff in the team, the QA plugin to suggest tags for questions with AI-based content. We were talking about all sorts of things around the, yeah, pull requests and whatnot. So certainly more in there. But that said, awesome. Thanks for sharing that, both of you. 6 minutes in, let's kick this off because we have a little bit of an agenda today. Welcome everyone for the Backstage community session on the June 2025, beginning of the summer. I hope you all get some time to rest before we go into anything. Don't forget it's summertime. Well, also depending on the hemisphere, we had someone joining from the southern hemisphere, I think, last time, and that was a different different conversation. But whatever you are, enjoy June. Let's put it that way. We have, as I said, the packed agenda. Just wanted to touch base a little bit on the release highlights. We shipped a new release yesterday with a bunch of cool stuff. I also wanted to drop a quick reminder on the Backstage Con KubeCon, the fall edition from North America, just a repetition of last time. And then we have a nice demo from Cisco. I believe we reserved almost half an hour for that, so I just want to please keep me accountable on the clock in here. And if I go ramble, please stop me. I just want to make sure Stefan and Sri, we have enough time there for that. And then a little bit of time at the end for Q&A. I think we had one good question came up at least on Canon, so I want to make sure we cover that. So that said, let's cover quickly the release. We have 140 out of the oven as of yesterday with a couple of nice updates in there. Maybe the first one of the largest ones on Scaffolder, a couple of breaking changes in there. Do we have Ben? Do you want to cover that, Ben, on the, yeah?
Yes. Okay, I need to refresh my mind a minute with the scaffold breaker changes. Okay, so we removed quite a few deprecations. There was a lot of stuff, a lot of deprecated types that were re-exported from other places. It's just that we were re-exporting them for backwards compatibility, not to make these breaking changes. But we cleaned up the API surface a little bit. So there's a new way to define actions, which is kind of in line with a lot of the front-end system configuration with Zod schemas, kind of aligning how you configure input and output schemas across Backstage, really. So we're trying to push to use that to define actions. There's a few other breaking changes in there, but that was kind of the main one, really. It's just the new way to create actions. It's been out for a while. We kind of deprecated the other types for a long time ago, I would say. So worth the cleanup for sure. There's going to be some more stuff coming soon. I guess like overall we want to kind of re-architect a little bit like how the scaffolded backend works. It's grown a lot in complexity over recent years. And yeah, we want to kind of take a little bit of a step back and understand what interfaces we really want to export and how we want people to extend the scaffolded backend, I guess, in general, just to make those patterns a little bit easier. So there's probably going to be some more removals coming soon, but I don't think they're going to change the public API of the scaffolded backend plugins so much because they come from different packages. So I was going to say something else. Oh yeah, the biggest change is actually we removed the old legacy backend system, which is kind of the biggest reason for doing this is now that the scaffold is just new backend system only. And we will also be doing that with some other plugins. I think the Kubernetes one is one of the last ones that we want to probably do. So that will come soon, I think, too. I can also take the next one as well if you want me to talk about the Actions Registry. So yeah, we shipped the Actions Registry. People thinking, what is that? People might have seen this tool or this issue in the open source, which is MCP support. If you don't know what MCP is, wow, I would trade places for you. I've heard it so much over the last few months. Yeah, basically we had an issue about how we want to support MCP in Backstage and more specifically how plugins can expose MCP tools. So we had a little bit of think about this. We've been planning to do something like an Actions Registry for quite a while, which is basically distributed actions. So I put an all this stuff. And we've kind of shipped an early version just to try and get some feedback. Actions Registry is a way to define distributed actions. So they will eventually be compatible with the scaffolder so that the scaffolder can call these distributed actions. That's not shipped yet. That's something we didn't get into the release, but we will try and get in for the next one. But the Actions Registry basically allows you to define actions from a plugin. So rather than installing a module like in the scaffolder, you just write this inside your plugin, you define an action, what you can and can't do. It's got an input schema and output schema. And then we've also shipped an addition to that, which is the mcp-actions backend, which basically takes all these actions that you registered and then exposes them in an MCP server that you can use in Claude, Cursor, whatever. Yeah, there's going to be some more changes to this coming up. Please go ahead and try it. It's very experimental at the minute. But yeah, go ahead and try and create some actions and see what it feels like. The MCP spec also moves quite quick. We've been trying to keep up with that for the last month or so. So there may be some breaking changes in the future. So it is very highly experimental. But yeah, please go try it out and give us some feedback and see what it feels like. One more thing on that. We kind of, by doing all this, we've kind of realized like authentication MCP is pretty tricky. It's kind of fresh off the box. So I guess we're going to be looking at a lot of like authentication stuff as well. We're kind of kicking off that work now to dive in a little bit to see what's going on with authentication and kind of take into account also device auth. I mentioned this in some in the RFC that device auth and kind of authentication with MCP is kind of a similar space. So we're looking at that and yeah, more info to come there too. Yeah. So that was a large section of me just rambling on in a monologue, but hopefully it makes some kind of sense.
No worries. Thank you, Ben. Also a large change or like an important change, I guess, that yeah, it's been gotten traction in the community. So yeah, thanks for that. Welcoming any feedback in there. And yeah, as Ben said, more on that. Stay tuned. Moving on to sort of like cruise through the rest of the major highlights in here. We got some breaking changes in catalog modules as well. The Bitbucket Cloud Entity Provider got a accepts a catalog service rather than a catalog API, and also the user and the group discovery for specifically for GitLab, the ingestion there is now different. Sorry about that. As in it defaults to ingesting directly to the root group that you have configured in there. Also, the CLI is moving towards the RS spec. Sort of like the idea is to make that obviously default out of the box. Some of the flags have been retired. Some of them are newly added. Please check the release notes and obviously documentation on more guidance on how to use those. Well, Ben also mentioned the new backend system. Just wanted to call out that we're making some progress on the new front-end system as well. In this release, we're advancing a little bit the metadata and how you can expose the metadata in there. It's kind of useful for adding stuff like contact and support information, for example. Check more the docs on how to do that. But again, hoping to land in the coming release more stuff in here. And then as sort of like the last, I don't know how many now, 3, 4 releases by now. Canon is also steaming ahead with some controls and improvements in there. Please continue to channel feedback. I know there's at least one question that I believe, Sharon, you brought up. Hopefully we have 5 minutes at the end to just touch a little bit more on this one. And then, yeah, cruising through some of the major contributions as well. Just wanted to extend some huge thank yous to all of you. We've got a new Kafka module for events backend, much like the AWS SQS. We have a Kafka module counterpart to receive events from Kafka and publish them. Thank you, Jonas, for putting this together in this release. We also have a new lint rule added into defaults to check forbidden plugin imports, sort of like tightening that security in there. It's done during the linting and also for the third-party repositories. It's set for warning for now, but I think in a future release, we're going to set that level to error to barf out. Thanks a lot, Drodil, for driving this work over the finish line. Also, TechDocs allows deep linking into another TechDocs in conjunction with the TechDocs entity annotation. There may be some follow-up fixes we may need to do, but thanks a lot, Chris, for taking that over the finish line. Backend rate limiting is another thing that dropped in this release. The backend system now has built-in support for rate limiting of incoming requests, whether that's per plugin or for the entire backend. Again, thank you, Drodil, for working and delivering this big piece of work. On Drodil's contribution as well, the next one's also yours, I believe. The notification retention policy, trying to be a good citizen is here, and keeping your storage size in check. The notification backend that stores these notifications is keeping a default retention of 1 year. Just again, keep in check your storage size in there. Thank you again, Drodil, for this contribution. And last but not least, obviously, the more DNI we have, the better. There's more work on internationalization that landed with this 140. A bunch of work to enable translations in several plugins. I hope I'm not missing some, but again, included but not limited. I'm reading the core components, catalog import, home search, and more. Thank you so much, Mario, for this valuable work. That said, as always, thank you so much for your contributors. You make this happen as part of a community for this OS. So thank you so much, everyone, for making this happen. That said, speaking of community, I just wanted to make a touch base on the Backstage Con KubeCon, the North America edition that happens in Atlanta in mid-November on the 10th. I touched base on this last time as well. The KubeCon submission deadline has passed, but the deadline for submitting submitting your proposals for Backstage Con is still, I believe, 2 weeks, and for some of the tracks, it's actually 1 week in July, so there may be even more time for that. So if you're planning to attend the Backstage Con and join us in Atlanta, please submit your proposals in there, and we hope to see as many of you in Atlanta. All right, that said, this is the usual housekeeping, 17 minutes in. All right, so I'm 2 minutes over, which is not that bad. Stefan, we have you in the call. I believe I've seen you. Yeah, I can see you there, and I don't know if you want to take this over, or Sri, or both of you. How do we do this?
Yeah, so we're gonna take it, both of us. So
Awesome.
Sri's gonna do a demo. So thanks.
Awesome. I'll stop sharing, and whenever you're done, you've got 30 minutes. Please take it over.
Yeah, thanks a lot for having us to present what we just worked on. So we just released a new plugin this morning. Probably haven't seen it. It's called AgentForge. It's a evolution of an internal one which was called Jarvis inside Cisco. So basically, what it does, it's a very agnostic way to consume AI agents, right? And basically, it can connect to any kind of AI agent which supports the A2A protocol from Google. And you can include this in your UI, right? Also, not just you can use this to consume or to interact with any agents you would be able to develop, but we also provide a series of platform agents which all work on the same, based on the same structure. So you mentioned before a lot of MCP. So those different agents which we release to the public domain as part of the Canon community, which is like the cloud native operational excellence So those are, you know, specific agents which can interact with different, you know, tools we all use, right? So being it GitHub, being it Argo CD, you know, PagerDuty, and so on and so on. So there's a series of agents which we release to the public domain. There's also, you know, a multi-agent which can consume all of those, and you can interact directly with that one. Again, Sri will show you a demo with those agents. You can just take them, use them as you wish, and also consume them inside Backstage with the plugin we just released, right? The plugin is not limited to those, as I said before. You can develop any kind of agent which supports, you know, the standard A2A protocol, and it can be consumed from the Backstage UI itself, right? So I don't know if there are any questions. Please stop and or put it on the chat. We try to answer. So I don't know, Sri, if you can start sharing. I think he also shared the link to our community page.
Yeah, I'm fixing a typo in the name here. Let me do my introduction here. For everyone, Sri Arajula. I work with Stefan in Outshift by Cisco. So as Stefan mentioned, we have been building this multi-agent system. Internally, we codenamed it as Jarvis. The external name, the community project is Community AI Platform Engineer. As you mentioned earlier, releasing MCP servers in Backstage, I think we see a great opportunity with the combination of MCP servers, building agents with the right type of system prompts, evaluations, and exposing them as distributed agents, and then be able to compose these multi-agent systems. So we created an opinionated AI platform engineer, and we plan to kind of create a couple of opinionated engineers, like incident engineer or product owner. And because the agents are great and they do a lot of cool things for end users, like developers, we thought the best way to expose that is through these familiar canvas like Backstage, where we already have internal developer portals. So the chatbot interface, one of the interfaces, should be like a plugin that they can interact with to do self-service, ask knowledge-based questions, and so on and so forth. And that will give them a lot of contextual information, both about information in Backstage. So before you all released the MCP stuff, we actually took the OpenAPI spec, created like a custom MCP server, but I think ultimately we wanted to, you know, use the official one. And we have several agents in the mix. Let me go ahead and share my screen to show that. So closing this tab here. So the first initial repo I would like to draw your attention to is the, if I can finish typing here, agentic AI repo. So this is the landing page for our community, agentic AI. And there is, just like any community project, we have office hours. We meet every Thursdays. All of that is included here. We're building several multi-agent, you know, personas, if you will. We have these following sub-agents. Today, as I mentioned, the Backstage agent uses our own MCP server that we generated from a code generator from OpenAPI spec to MCP, but ultimately we want to use what is officially provided in the Backstage ecosystem. So architecturally, we've taken a set of opinions to build this. So again, these opinions will evolve as this space is moving so fast, as you all know. We have landed on using LangGraph as the orchestrator for agentic interaction, using a lot of the LangChain, like bindings, the open source tools. Each of these sub-agents are built using MCP as the underpinnings of tool calling. And they have system prompts, they have some adjustments, how to do certain things. Maybe in future, we'll do some more custom tools beyond MCP. Those individual agents, these are all open source agents, these individual repos, and we have stable Docker containers published. They expose A2A, the agent-to-agent interface from Google. Cisco is also working on a collective called Agency that provides gateway functionality, where agents don't do peer-to-peer communication. They can do like a message bus type gateway communication. So we have support for both. You can do peer-to-peer or gateway, where there is, it reduces some lag in initial connectivity and timeouts and all the functionality that a typical like message bus provides with circuit breaking, etc. So we have a supervisor agent, which is the AI platform engineer that basically can orchestrate multi-agent interaction with some reflection built in. And this is where the connection for user input comes in. That agent, the AI platform engineering agent, exposes A2A, and that brings us to the AgentForge conversation. Stefan, I think what we could do here is include that public link. Now that it's publicized, we should include one of the repos here is the community plugins, so folks can download. So going into the, go ahead.
Just a small comment as you were there. So again, as Sri said, all of those agents, even the sub agent or the supervisor agent, they talk A2A. So interacting with the AgentForge, you can do it on the super agent or the supervisor agent level, or you can also interact directly with those agents. So they are completely, depending on the use case, whether you have a multi-agent where he decides what tool to use or what agent to use behind, or you can, if you only need PagerDuty, for example, you can just connect directly to it. So sorry.
Yeah. So I will prefix by saying we have stable tags for all of this, including the AgentForge that has been. Obviously, this work is rapidly in progress. So my understanding is the AgentForge still needs a authorization header that we need to include into the into your workload. So if you are deploying like our internal system today uses the Backstage JWT that passes it to the backend multi-agent system, and we do some RBAC checks. Depending on how the JWT RBAC thing shapes up in Backstage, this, right now the plugin, if you're using in production, I advise caution on, making sure that you have to pass the right authorization header. That's not available, as I understand in the plugin. It's work in progress. So what we will demo today is the publicly available AgentForge that's published today. Thank you to Andre and Stefan and several others who helped get that through. That will connect A2A to our supervisor agent. It's running Docker Compose on my laptop. And that also starts a bunch of other agents at the same time. So what I encourage everybody, and you can try this at right now. So if you look at, let me refresh my screen here. So this is the Docker Compose we have available. So there is a stable tag of the multi-agent system, a bunch of the sub-agents, and at the bottom is the Docker container that we're hosting right now. This is just the plugin. It doesn't include all of Backstage. It's just running the plugin just to verify or play with this plugin. You can run it on port 3000, and then rest of the agents are available in this Docker Compose. So you can take a look at this code, and we have a good amount of README how to set up your .env. There is an example .env. And if you only have a GitHub token, you could do that and stub rest of them. So with that said, I'm going to pause and see, Stefan, if you have any questions. If not, I'll go jump into the demo. Or any thoughts you want to add.
No, I think it's just, being just fresh out of the press. So if you have any feedbacks or, improvement ideas would be great to share.
Yeah. So as we land on this plugin, if anyone installs this plugin with the instructions, they will see this icon at the bottom right corner, Jarvis. We'll do some more style improvements. We have some of our UX folks helping us with better icons, etc. We'll keep improving that. But once you launch this AgentForge plugin, you can ask a question, show, what can you do, right? So in the background, Let me make sure that I'm sharing the right screen. Yeah, let me open this up here. Resume share. So this is my VS Code backdrop, and it's running. I'm going to clear the screen on the right-hand side. So it's running the Docker Compose of all the agents, and I may be able to better show it here. It might be easier to see all the containers. So in my Docker desktop, I'm running the Compose stack along with all these agents. One of them is the plugin, and the platform engineer is the persona. So if I open this up, these are the logs that are coming through. So I'll run a couple of more queries, and I'll go back and forth to show what's going on. So I can ask a question like, show me all the tools in all the tools. You're just asking a natural language question, and so these are the things you can do. So without further ado, I'll say, show me all the incident, PagerDuty services, and who is, yeah, let me just do that so that I can avoid any PII information. So yeah, would you like me to show? Yes. Sometimes LLMs can be a bit finicky. So let me pause here and take a look at what's going on here. Yeah, allow me just a minute. I'm going to restart my container demo so that it pulls up the right container.
Yeah, until doing that, so the only config on the plugin is right now is the the URL of the A2A interface of the agent, right? So you just specify, well, this is the URL where it should connect. So there's one small.
If you want to take over that share, Stefan, real quick, let me switch on my thing. Yeah, if you can show the install for the AgentForge real quick, I'll bring up I was just switching out a Docker container, and I may have done it incorrectly at the last minute.
Let's see if I can share. All right, so can you see my screen? Hopefully, yes.
Yep,
Yes.
works well.
We can see it. Yep.
So basically, the configuration is pretty simple. So it's just specify the URL of the specific agent. In my case, in my computer right now, I'm just connected to one of the agents, which is so you won't see this, but it's just the Argo CD run, right? So whatever I'm doing here, it's gonna reply with Argo CD information. But again, the only setting to be done for the agent itself, for the plugin itself, is to specify the URL of the agent, which could be, again, it could be the multi-agent, which behind it, it's it's orchestrating all the others. Yeah, so it's pretty simple right now. Yeah.
Yeah.
You want me to put some, or you can read?
I can take over and show. I'm ready now.
Okay. Let me stop sharing.
Yeah. Let me take over that. I'll go back to. Yeah, so I was running a local container in Docker Compose, not the stable one. So going back to the same question, show me the PagerDuty services. So basically what this will do is it's going to go to the PagerDuty application. So we also have a CLI built into the agent AI platform engineer repo. In this case, the question from Backstage was asked, and because the agent was able to retrieve some cached info, it's able to immediately respond without going back to the agent. If I ask, show me my latest JIRAs in SRE project and mask and API, and ask any PII info. So it will go fetch my information, and I can also ask a lot of combination questions, so that it will go fetch that info. So in the background, the orchestration comes to the platform engineer. It determines that it needs to go talk to the remote agent, and then it goes and calls any number of appropriate agents using the standard reason and act loops. So these agents are not just purely MCP tools. They have a reason and act loops. They fetch a bunch of information, and then they'll go, they'll have to do a bunch of LLM interactions because of the nature of how it's getting that info. And once it's gets that info, it formats everything into a markdown format and sends it back to the plugin. In this case, this is the end user interface. So because I asked a question that's a little bit more lengthy, as the context window is bigger, and I asked it to mask the info, it's going to take a little bit longer to generate that response. So, and that's one of the really cool ways to expose that info. So you'll see that here are some things that are assigned to me that are in my backlog, and it's able to show some of this information. So we'll continue to optimize these prompts. I'll ask another question. Find the status of apps in Jarvis agent dev. So CD apps in project, and send a message to Slack space. So and it doesn't know which Slack space it's going to send it to, because we have it so that it can go back and forth with the user, and it is aware of the context, the thread. It will go fetch that info, and when it's ready to send that information, it will ask us which space do you want to send this info. And obviously we have connected a specific Slack channel and an org in this, and then it's going to get that information. So so it did go look for that info. Probably does not have the specific info that it's looking for. I may have to go see if it's the right project, but that kind of gives the idea. I can ask another question here. Show me the Slack channels.
Yeah, and especially using the multi-agent orchestrator. So if the questions are complex or they imply interaction with multiple agents, the wait time, also depending on the on the LLM used, it might take a while to get the response. But
yeah. So these are some Slack channels that are available out there, and these are ones we connected. So I can say send a hi message to social channel. Again, there is a whole bunch of optimization we're doing to reduce the speed of calling these things. Ultimately, one of the biggest delays would be how fast the LLM can respond, reason and act. So, and if the LLMs are, we're a little bit bottlenecked by that, and there are obviously more optimizations using small models could help a lot. So yeah, I think it sent the message, and I'll pull the appropriate Slack channel to show you guys what's going on there. But that's how some of the so this is the Slack channel that it sent a hi message, and you can imagine doing a lot of these cross agent interactions and calling tools, etc. Let me ask one more question about Argo CD. Show me all the Argo CD apps in project. Let me see if this works. If not, we'll pause and see if there are any questions, thoughts on this demo. So let me find the same question, because it's caching some of this info. I'll do a prod use case. While I do that and wait for this response, are there any questions about this? Oh, another interesting one I could show is I can find out this because it's a public repo. Show me all the PRs in Backstage repo, in Backstage org. I'm intentionally restricting my query so that it doesn't just goes, crunch a bunch of like repos and get me that info, which would take longer.
Yeah, that
So
might be yeah.
So in this case, if the agent determines that, yeah, you are asking a question about the GitHub agent, and as I mentioned, the agents that we built are all like Docker containers, and they have entry points to A to A, and they take the right, token configuration, gets that info, and then it posts that information back to the agent, to the plugin. Sorry, Stefan, I interrupted you. So this is the output of that GitHub plugin, and you can ask, hey, show me more details about number 2, right? So it can go and look for this issue ID 30304, and really this is where it gets very, very interesting, where you can ask very natural language questions that are context aware, and then it can say, yeah, there you go. So it can say the number 2 issue is an Azure storage thing. It's an open issue authored by Haboop and blah, blah, blah. So it has all that checklist, and it's able to render that in a nice markdown way with JavaScript. So a lot of these interactions, even if folks have their Git organizations or servers inside their enterprises, they should be able to plug in and get a lot of this contextual information. Stefan, do you want to add anything? I think this, we can continue showing some more use cases, but this will essentially capture the essence of the demo.
Yeah, so I mean, it's just the first version we just released. So one of the things we are gonna add soon is gonna be streaming, right? So in case information is available, asynchronously during the time, you will see some of the results before and not just at the end. I think we're going to improve our agents anyway. So and then extend the supported tools. Yeah, and I think for Backstage we didn't demo it today, but it's a plugin to consume Backstage itself. And we are going to change to use because we heard in the call today, you have an official MCP server for Backstage. We're going to switch to that one. Also part of the agents, agentic AI repos, we also have some tools like some of the how to pass from an API specification to an MCP server automatically and this kind of thing. So it would be worth taking a look. So I don't know if you have any questions or feedback.
Yeah.
Would be nice.
Sorry, just a quick comment on my end. I was going to say that it's awesome. You can operationalize a bunch of stuff around on-call. For example, I think you showed some PagerDuty stuff earlier, and then sort of like who is on call, send a message. There's a bunch of operations that obviously couple those together. The ladder around that, for example, could be an easy example use case to improve. So certainly a lot of usability for this one. Thanks a lot for sharing. Cool. Any questions in the room? Any follow-ups? Any feedback? If not, I believe you already put the links in there, no? Sri, yeah, you already put those. I saw the PR was merged this morning, so this is really, really fresh out of the oven. So thank you so much for that.
Yeah, I didn't see your question, but you can ask those questions. Who's on call for service X or all the services? And it's actually a great way to not go log into a specific tool or some cases you may or may not have access to it, depending on like what type of, because of licensing. Like in this case, you can see, I'll just show this quick one and then stop. So for the question you asked, you can ask, hey, who's on SRE on call? And these are the people that are on call, and these are the escalations. So yeah, I think this is live info that's part of our team. And it does save. So this is our community version, and we have done quite a few self-service tooling inside our internal version. It is actually in use. We have streamlined creating a lot of CI/CD pipelines. We have streamlined how do people get access to information through RAG, GraphRag. We want to bring in a lot of those things back to the community. So yeah, when we get an opportunity next time, we'll do a next iteration of presentation with even authentication. I think auth and security is a big deal in this space, so we want to definitely get that right.
Yeah, certainly a lot of agentic behaviors that are getting unlocked there with what you mentioned. Awesome. Thank you so much, both of you, for presenting this. Just pausing for a little bit in case there are questions or feedback or anything from folks in the room. And then if not, I'll steal the screen again to wrap this up with Q&A. Hopefully you can still see my screen now. All right, going once, going twice. All right, thank you again, both of you, for sharing this. Appreciate demoing it. As always, if you have more questions or whatnot, I think Sri already put the links in there. The plugin is really, really fresh in the community plugins. I think it landed this morning. So as Sri said, a lot of opportunities there to iterate or follow up in case you have questions. Thank you again, both of you. That said, I think the last part, moving on to the Q&A, I just wanted to highlight we have a Q&A on Canon, which I just want to make sure I didn't drop. I believe Shiran's question, and then obviously we have a just broadening, opening the Q&A for everyone on all the topics. But Shiran, did you want to voice yours, or did you want me to just cover it? Sorry to put you on the spot. Just saw you in the room. I'm happy to cover it. Otherwise,
yeah, please.
sure. Cool. So yeah, basically, Shiran, you brought this up on Discord, what's the impact on existing plugins for Material UI transition to the new Canon, which again, as I mentioned, finds its way to streamlining it for Backstage, and what are some considerations for PatternFly, and yeah, whether we have any recommendations for plugin integrations. Patrick, sorry to put you on the spot. Do you want to take this one? I think you've got some context.
Yes, sure.
Thank you.
So just overall impact from Canon, I guess we can even go back to before Canon, which is our kind of new area for developing a design library for Backstage. Before we started up Canon, we were starting up the process of migrating to MUI 5 instead. I think MUI 6 is even out now. I don't know how many they're doing, 7 and 8 too. It is essentially a upgrading plugins, going in and switching out components within plugins to use the new design system, and it's going to be a lengthy process, no matter what we switch to. I think I don't think it's a controversial opinion to say that it will be nice to move on from MUI 4 to something newer. Like MUI 5 was looking very good, and now we're heading towards Canon instead, and we of course paused the MUI migration. But it's going to be a lengthy process to kind of move over, and of course that's why we want to make sure to spend a lot of time on Canon and make sure it's something that we think is worth effort to move to. Yeah, exactly. We code mods, both code mods and of course maybe some prompts can help out in this space. Whatever we can do to make it easier. Yeah, essentially. There's part of the question here that is also considerations for plugins that use PatternFly. In general, I mean, plugins are fine to use whatever kind of components from other areas they can find in general. Like charting libraries is a classic one. We don't have any charting libraries in our core components currently, or there aren't any in MUI. So plugins can kind of do what they want. But of course, if you're not using, MUI or any of the built-in kind of core components and so on, you don't get the theming. You don't get the theming capability generally unless you solve that in some other way. So it's very much if you're building front-end plugins with any other design libraries or components, you're kind of on your own in that area. I'm not sure if it's affected that much by the shift to Canon, other than that maybe Canon will cover some of the spaces that people are reaching to other component libraries for. When it comes to compatibility migration, the API for Canon is not stable enough yet to say what the process will be like yet. So that's very much still work in progress. Anything else? Any other things to cover while we're talking about it?
Thank you, Patrick.
Otherwise, yep.
I have a follow-up question, if that's okay.
Sure.
Just to make sure that I got it right. So in case that we have a front-end plugin and we design it with material UI components right now, so what you are saying is that once the Canon library will be available, the UI will be, all the components will be shifted to use the Canon design library in case of material UI by default. I mean, just wondering how we should approach designing future plugins.
We're making sure that the theming of Canon aligns with, like, the default theme on Canon aligns with the current MUI theme, at least as long as we are in any form of transitional state between the two. So that when designing a plugin, like from a visual perspective, it will be very similar. Now it's possible that Canon might change some of the patterns used to design plugins from the visual perspective. And so that's hard to say how that can be lifted over. As for the actual implementation, like the code, no, if the plugin is built with MUI, it wouldn't need to be migrated to Canon eventually, if that's desirable.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you for that, Shiran. Thanks for the question. Thank you, Patrick, for the answers. If there are any other questions on Canon, or just broadening the scope, of course, to the release, the Cisco demo, to anything else, we have a couple of minutes. If not, obviously, happy to give some time back, but I'll pause for a couple of seconds in case more questions come in. All right. I don't see, yeah, no worries, Sean. I don't see any other questions coming in unless there is going to be anything last minute, which sometimes does happen. I'll just buy some time in case someone's still typing by saying that we will skip the July community session just because of the holidays. We've done the same last year, and a lot of people are off. I just want to be mindful again for people's holidays. But yeah, as Ben said, thank you. Releases will go ahead as planned, as usual, but we will just skip the community session in July, which means we're gonna see you all, in case you're joining again, sometime mid-August. I'll file the ticket right after this call so that we have it. Can't remember the date, somewhere around the mid-August. We will see you all in there with two releases to cover, most likely with context. But yeah, usually in the summer they're a little bit shorter in scope, so probably overall they'll combine to a normal cadence release. Cool. Thank you so much, everyone, for attending. Thank you so much again, Sri and Stefan, for the demo in there. If there's any more questions or feedback or whatnot, feel free to reach out. If not, we wish you all a beautiful summer or beautiful June, whatever you are on the planet. Take good care of you. Thank you.